Hey, Mick, what's going on, man?
How are you doing today?
Sorry about that. Your call dropped before when we were talking to you.
That's okay. That's why it's a good thing you got the hotel number.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. So I guess we could start because we're going to pre-record it and put it up later since we're not live. But welcome to the show. The name of the show is Hippo Juice, just so you know who you're talking to. I'm Royce, I have Mersh, and I have Johnny on the line. Those are the three hosts of the show.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
I am so excited, I can't even talk.
It's not going to make for good radio, though, is it?
Oh, my God, I hate interviews, but it's Mick Foley.
Well,
I am equally as excited.
Mersh does kind of sound like Nick Nolte all the time, so don't mind him. That's his normal voice. But
just pretend you're talking to Bob Levy.
Oh, yeah, man. What strikes me about Bob, a lot of things strike me about Bob, but Bob's now doing radio in South Carolina, and I know, Southerners can be, they can be a little resistant to just any Northerner, and then you get Bob Levy coming in with that voice, like, hey, brother. They're buying Bob a one-way ticket back to JFK.
Yeah, they start calling you Yankees.
Yeah. There's still a little bit of that left there.
Now, what was harder on your body, your wrestling career or working with Bob Levy?
You know what? The Bob's it's emotionally taxing. It's not physically difficult. That's the same thing for comedy in general. Is that it's like got all of those same great qualities about wrestling, the anxiety, the mental anguish, all the things that you love. But without the physical pain.
Well, and how did you decide to go from? You went from wrestling into being a New York Times bestseller multiple times over.
Yeah, number one twice. Just want to put that out to you guys.
Yeah, number one twice. That's 2 times.
Hey, I might as well get a plug in. I've got my first children's book coming out. First one since 2004. That'll be out in like late October, November. It's a seasonal tale.
Awesome. And this is the second one, right? Because you already have a children's book.
I did 3 of them, but they came kind of rapidly. Well, it was 99, 2001, 2004, and I haven't done one since then. So I'm really pretty pumped about it.
You really are like a weird living paradox. Like anybody who's ever watched footage of like Mick Foley's matches would never imagine that they would get to speak to somebody like as articulate and like somebody who wrote, 2, I'm assuming soon to be 3 bestsellers. And like, it's just odd. Like you would expect a guy after coming out of a thumbtack match to be a complete lunatic, just like down in Percocets and like getting into bar fights. But he's so like, oh, well, I got to go work on the book, gentlemen. So thank you. I'm going to retire back to the hotel. It's so awesome. And I used to live in Miami with Royce, and Royce, we all know the Dan Marino thing about how just everybody in the entire city of Miami and surrounding areas has a Dan Marino story, and they fucking hate his guts.
Oh, but they hate Dan. I thought Dan was supposed to be one of like the nice guys.
No,
and Mick Foley is the anti-Dan Marino on Long Island. Like everybody has a story of meeting Mick Foley, and they're like, he was the coolest dude. He was at the grocery store.
Well, you know what I mean. I look at my slugging percentage is up around like 987. There's the occasional guy who catches me when I don't have time, and also like I was just at at SeaWorld, for example, with my 9-year-old, and it was packed. And unfortunately, like that's an atmosphere where you just can't stop to take photos because your kid can he can disappear. Not in the sinister kidnapping way, but there's just so many places you can go. So I'm thinking of actually traveling with like sticky notes. This is something Walt Disney used to do before sticky notes. He had index cards.
Great idea.
And maybe I'll just have a stack of index cards that say, when someone says something, hey brother, can I have a photo? You hand them the index card that says, I'm with my son. I have to keep my eye on him. Best of luck, Mick Foley. So they're getting something, but without that the sacred camera phone to prove that the event existed.
That would be so annoying to get a photocopy that just said, have a nice day, Mick Foley.
They wouldn't be photocopies. They'd be the legit signature.
Oh, well, that's
you would just,
that's not bad,
right? Go home and hammer them out like when an author has like a promo thing on a radio show. Yeah, I'll sign 10 books for you.
Yeah.
Now it's funny because every time a show films in Long Island, it is kind of like a Where's Waldo. You just pop up on every network in the background. Sometimes I was watching, I believe the show was Kitchen Nightmares, and you were just sitting at a table. They didn't even mention you were there, but it's like every Long Island thing you pop up in, just everywhere.
Yeah, I got a call from Dee Snider, and he was like, "Hey, you want to hang out with me and my family, have dinner for free?" And I'm like, "I'm in." So I didn't say, do I have lines on the show? The only downside, and was pretty serious, was that was the episode where most people figured out I only had one sports coat. They're like, wait a second, I've seen that beige corduroy jacket before.
Oh, you live simply. You live within your means. Who needs more than one sports coat?
Exactly.
Yeah. Needs more than a 2002 Chevy Venture minivan either.
Hey, it is a Chevy Avenger. That is not bad. I think that's the one that the door opens by itself.
It's the Cadillac of piece of crap minivans.
I'm starting to think that I'm a hybrid of Bob Levy and Mick Foley, except nobody knows/cares who I am. But it's about the same.
Hey, come on! According to our ticket sales tonight at Puck, no one cares who we are either.
Well, that's what we're trying. That's what we're trying to help. We're trying to get the ticket sales up because I've heard a lot of good things about your comedy, and definitely want to check you out if you ever make it down. I'm down in Miami. If you ever make it down here to beautiful Miami.
Yeah, we were toying with the idea of trying to put a comedy show in among that WrestleMania weekend. I'm glad we didn't. It's just too packed. But I may check with WWE and see if they'll do an event, with me, where they make it an official part of next year's WrestleMania extravaganza in New York. But I do a good job. People are pleasantly surprised because they don't know what to expect. And then Bob is he's one of the best live comedians you'll ever see. So. We complement each other well, and out of respect for Bob, I try to only drop one or two F-bombs during my entire set, and then Bob does that and more in his first sentence. Yeah, so it works out good.
What made you wanna go down the comedy route or to take up comedy?
Well, you know what? One of the most surprising things to me is when I started doing comedy, people were like, "Really? Wow, you're like the last guy." And I was thinking, haven't I been kind of funny on their show for 20 years, making people laugh and wince? And it's just a matter of grabbing that microphone and, coming up with some ideas that are humorous. They don't always have to be laugh out loud funny. Sometimes, it's the type of thing where you think about it a little bit, and on the way home, people are like, yeah, that's a pretty good point he made.
It's not easy, man.
That way.
It's definitely not easy.
Sorry, I don't mean to talk over you. Even if I get into politics or something of that nature, it's kind of an agreeable thing where, whether someone likes or dislikes Obama or likes or dislikes President Bush, when I'm done talking about him, they're like, yeah, that's a pretty good point he made.
Now, have you at any point had that moment yet, where you know what I mean, where you really just ate your own dick? I'm a comic, so I understand the feeling, but have you ever had that moment where you just, because I equate it to the feeling of your chute not opening, you know what I mean, when you're really confident in a line and you just deliver it with everything, and it just, you hear that oof, you just feel it in the room.
Down moments.
Yeah, just where you really had confidence in a line and you're like, bam, and it just falls to a thud.
Ooh, you know what? Yeah, there have been a couple of those moments, especially when I'll do a unannounced guest set, to work on stuff. And I remember Adam Ferrara, he's a great, what a great comic he is. He pulled me aside afterward, and he was explaining, that look, you can't open up with a story that takes 10 minutes if your set is 10 minutes. You got to kind of work them in. You throw your jabs. A lot of these people, if they don't know you, then you got to get them to know you a little bit so they can find the humor in the stories. But there have been a couple of those times where I did a guest set one time for a Wounded Warriors benefit, and I just stopped in the middle of my set and I said, man, if I was in a pool, I would ask somebody for a life preserver because I am drowning up here. And the crowd gave me a nice round of applause. They appreciated the honesty.
Now, how is it? How are comedy fans in relation to wrestling fans? Because I'm sure it's a different feel. It's a different audience.
Fewer.
Well, have you been to my shows?
No, I have not, sir.
Well, the nice thing about working with Bob is that Bob, he's been a working comic and a great comic for 25 years. So Bob brings in comedy fans, and he also helps us bring in. I know I joke about the the show being a little light at Puck, and right now it is, but we're expecting things to to pick up pretty nicely. But in most cases, wrestling fans who know me and know Bob will be like, okay, maybe I'd be on the fence if it was just Mick, but this is going to be good. Like Bob wouldn't, he wouldn't do the double bill unless he thought I was good. They're usually pleasantly surprised, and I like working with I like performing in front of non-wrestling fans too. But let's honestly, I get them. like,
Yeah, I figured you probably see a lot of WWE merchandise shirts in the.
Oh yeah, not WWE. This is like the counter WWE fans. These are guys, who will wear like a Ring of Honor shirt or an old ECW shirt to let me know they're not just the standard fan.
Oh, the indie guys.
Yeah, what's that?
The indie guys, the indie.
Yeah. We get a lot of the the hardcore fans who come out and they give me a free pass on my work in the ring like the last 5 years.
Now you've thrown your hat into the comedy ring. Any hope of seeing maybe a Mankind Bob Levy tag team match at Extreme Rules? Anything like that?
Every time Bob brings up something about wrestling, I just kind of nod my head and try to change the subject. But Bob's been wanting me to put him through a table since we met, and I finally think I have a way to do it, a way to get into it where it doesn't look just totally preposterous.
Come on, put me through a table, you cocksucker. Come on, you son of a bitch. I do a lot of fucking favors for you. Come on.
Is Bob in studio now?
No, I've just known him for a long time. Bob Levy actually married me to a girl for 28 days.
You really?
I know Bob.
Yeah, he married Mersh to his high school sweetheart, and the marriage lasted as long as the month of February, not in a leap year.
Wow, man! I have a similar story about 80s adult film icon Christy Canyon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was married for a very short time, and I asked her, well after that fact, I said, how did the guy, take it when he found out, what you did for a living? And she goes, I think that might have been the problem. And I said, you got married and didn't tell your husband what you did for a living? And she's like, well, I didn't think it was really any of his business. I was like, it's not like you just dabbled in it, you were.
This is exactly why marriages can't work nowadays. Yes. Everyone I know in a relationship that's my age withholds one major. I work at a strip club, and do you know how many of those girls, their parents, their boyfriends, nobody knows what they do?
Oh, really?
I've got one girl, their parents, her boyfriend thinks that she does hair, but I'm like, what hair studio is open till 4 a.m?
Yeah.
And you come back covered in glitter and smelling like, Patron.
One's in Oakland.
I don't know. That's keeping secrets is what makes a marriage fall apart. Even among the swinging couples, it's not the swinging or the cheating that breaks up the marriage. It's the need to lie about it. So I guess I'm saying, guys, just be honest about your infidelities.
How long have you? Now you've been married for a long time, right?
I have, yeah. I mean, almost 21 years.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
And you have 2 kids or 3?
Indoor record in pro wrestling.
You have 2 kids or 3?
I have 4.
Oh wow!
Oh
yeah. Apparently, someone wasn't watching Wife Swap.
Any of them getting in the ring anytime soon?
What's that?
I said, any of them getting in the ring anytime soon?
No, thank goodness. No, you know what? There's only so many matches I think a fan can watch, and my son, he went past that date expiration like 5 years ago. He was so into it. He loved it so much. It's my little guys now. They just love it. They take those action figures. That's all they need. They don't need video games or anything. They just play with those things for hours. And I can't even win a match in my son's own action game contest.
That's got to be tough though to be to have been in the wrestling business. It appears to me that wrestlers are one of the wrestlers, and actually now that you're a comics are the same way. Those are the two businesses where people do not want their kids to follow in their footsteps. Like they do anything in their power to keep them out of that business.
I've been lucky. Like I haven't seen like the seedy side of the comedy business, except when I hang out with Bob every night. Bob invited me to stay with him in Twitchell's, Louis Santani last night. And I was like, I'm kind of like a hotel guy. So I'm looking out my window. I'm literally, if I'm seem distracted because there's a Cracker Barrel next door. And I'm like, I'm going to sit on one of those rockers and order like 4 different types of breaded fried vegetables.
And play checkers.
Yeah, I got to play checkers by the roaring fire.
You heard it here first, folks. Mick Foley, a raging lunatic. A madman.
Hey, you know what? Can I plug another deal? I think it's pretty big. I'm actually getting a chance to do the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this summer, and that's a bit. That and Montreal, they're the biggest ones in the world. It looks like I'm going to be doing Montreal with a great comedian named Brendan Burns.
Oh well, yeah, I know Brendan Burns.
Yeah, Brendan's. He's nuts and he's great. He came and did 2 guest sets on my tour in the UK, and I would look out at the crowd when the MC or the compere, as they call it over there, would say, "We have a special guest, Brendan Burns," and people were like, lose it. Not that everybody knew who he was, but the ones who knew comedy knew how good this guy was. Were like doing the what, like that twirl of the head, like they couldn't believe it. And then he'd just go out there and kill, and I'd sit there thinking like, oh, geez, I got 47 shows under my belt, and this guy just went out there and killed. So sets the bar pretty high.
Now, something I always ask comics that perform in the UK that the comedy clubs in the UK, they say, are easier to perform at because the bar is separate from the performing area, so you don't have that rustling of bills at the end and waitresses walking by all the time. Is that how it is over there?
Yeah, you know what? It's a good point. It's there's pros and cons. The pro is that they don't have that moment. Judah Friedlander, he talked about it to the point of obsession. Like, don't let him do the checks during your set. Don't let him do the checks during your set. It's like, okay, Judah, I get it. And then the one night where they did it, I was like, what the hell happened to what happened to the energy and the attention in the room? And it was that time. It's like if a main event went into the ring for a pay-per-view and all of a sudden they made everybody pay their bills. It takes away from the action going on. So my way of adapting when that happens is to just do a 10-minute Q&A until the bills are paid. But the con over there in the negative to the UK stuff is, man, they really, really push the drinks. It's not like the 2-drink minimum. Okay, we're happy if you buy the 2. It's like we got to have an interval so they can have more drinks. And by the time you get out there, the biggest hurdle for me was trying to figure out, okay, just how drunk are these people, and how many subtleties can I get away with, and that's part of learning the trade. Last night, for example, we were in a bar, and so I was like, okay, the stuff that requires, and not to put the people down, but it was loud, and you kind of have to come in harder hitting with stuff that is going to make people laugh fairly immediately instead of setting stuff up that they'll laugh about minutes down the road. Not that my comedy is that sophisticated, but I did stuff that I thought would be more immediate and more definite instead of taking chances that required a lot of attention.
Well, that's why, and it's bad too when you got a bunch of drunks and they're literally going woo during your setups.
Oh man, yeah, and one of the obstacles for me when I was over there is all right, if you like Bob Levy, he can do a whole set just work in the audience. In my case, I found during the UK tour that when you acknowledge and have some banter with the hecklers, they're not really heckling me. They're just yelling out inconsequential stuff, which is pretty annoying, and it takes away from the stories. And there are stories I tell that are taken from the books, so there is an ending that is known to some of the people, and then you have people like yelling out the ending of the story. I mean, I could go watch When the Red Fern Grows with my kids on DVD and go, "Hey, the dog dies at the end, kids."
Spoiler alert.
And that was just about to get into that too. You ruined it.
Actually, it's funny that Mick brought up the check spot issue, because that is hands down the worst spot in comedy. It's the most miserable place to be. And I remember a couple of years ago, I had a chance to work at Caroline's on Broadway, which was like my dream. That's like any comics, like it's huge. It's like the big time. And I had like 20 people out there to see me. It was a huge night. And they didn't tell me till like the last second that I would be getting the check spot.
Ooh.
And you want to talk about just literally, I waited months for this, and I was so pumped. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't have gotten less attention in that room. It was depressing. And at one point, I just wanted to say, don't worry about your checks. They've decided tonight it's all on the house. And then just keep going.
The only thing worse than that in comedy is having a musical act open up for you.
Yeah, that or improv.
Oh, when you have a guy that's like, I wrote this song about my wife, and just takes the energy out of the room.
Like either that or the comic that's doing a fundraiser, and then they'll do a whole thing. Like they'll do a whole spiel that's great. And just before you get on stage, they'll be like, well, hey guys, remember, we had a lot of fun here tonight, but remember, IEDs are no joke. And tons of troops are getting killed every day. Thank you. Here's your next comedian, Mersh. And you're like,
oh,
you get that scattered clap, and you just come out like, so how about that, folks? IEDs, waka waka, yay! And you just have to bring them back.
You know what? It reminds me so much of wrestling that there's so many intangibles. I think there's more in comedy, but I mentioned a group like Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is a great group. I'm actually going to reach out to the former owner and see if he wants to come to the show tonight.
My good friend works there.
Which guy?
Mike Mondo. I grew up with him.
Yeah.
He's a dear friend.
Tell him I said hello.
One of the best quotes I ever heard about him was he loves the business so much it, quote, makes me sick. What a pro wrestler said about him.
Oh yeah, if he makes you sick, or the business makes him sick.
No, he was another wrestler that I know, Amish Roadkill from the ECW days.
Oh yeah. I remember talking to his mom and dad before we got into the business about the high potential for getting hurt, and they thought I was crazy. And then the guy nearly was paralyzed during his first match.
Wow.
He woke up during the MRI, got out, and started choking out a nurse.
Jeez.
Story.
Wow.
That sounds like roadkill.
I called up his parents just to say, "Told you so."
That's what they want to hear when their son's having an MRI.
You
didn't listen.
You were right.
Told you so. Ha ha.
Go ahead. You're about
seriously,
to say
they're
something.
fusing his bones together. No, just that I work with Roadkill now, my day job, and we were talking one day, and we were talking about Mike Mondo, and he goes, "Yeah, Mike Mondo, that's a good kid, man, but he loves this business so much it makes me sick." That just was one of the funniest quotes ever.
One of the great things about great or most pathetic things about wrestling is that you can talk wrestling with a guy, travel with him for 5 years, and then you hear like the airline calling his name under his real name. You're like, is that your real name? Well, I couldn't even tell you what most of the guys' names are. I look at like the list and we go overseas with WWE, and I'm like, I need a character name. I don't know who these people are.
You're like, this is my buddy Phantom, and then they're like, now paging Chris Myers. Chris Myers to the front desk,
I left
please.
tickets for 3 WWE guys. I did a post pay-per-view show at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in New York City, where they do a lot of the ad libs,
the improv troops.
Improv ad libs. And they let me do a midnight show, 11:59 p.m., just so I wouldn't confuse people as to what day it was. And so a few of the wrestlers came by, and I was like, "Yeah, I just want to leave some tickets for a couple of the guys." And they were like, "Okay, we just need a name." And I was like, like a real name?
Like
Yeah,
a
and
couple
I was
guys,
like,
The Rock, Raven.
well, in this case, it was like Dolph Ziggler.
Now, who's speaking of that? Who's some of the young talent that you think has a real good shot of making it? Because you have your eye on there all the time.
Yeah, well, man, I just wrote, if people want to go to mickfoley.typepad.com, I wrote, pretty pretty angry blog about some stuff that's been going on. With
I will
a young
be
guy
checking
who's
that
actually
out.
got a lot of talent. And
Is this the Dean Ambrose thing?
yeah, you can say his name, but I won't. I won't say it for the rest of April.
Sorry.
And the guy, he's actually very good, but there's like some lines that you don't go over, especially if a guy says, "Hey, don't go over this line." And so I said in the blog that, like, if I'm going to get in the ring again, it's at this point, like, I'm almost 47. I've done way more than I should. Like, I've got to go in there with somebody that I can trust, because I really can't take any more headshots. So we are in a business where you can like gear your match away from the things that you shouldn't be doing, where we have an advantage over hockey or football or any sport where you can't tell your opponent to leave your head alone. And the two guys I mentioned I'd like to wrestle are Dolph, because he's he's amazing, and I don't think like the fans get just how good he is yet. I mean, there's that wrestler every once in a while. Kurt Angle was that way for years. I don't think Kurt got his due from the fans because he was so funny. And when Kurt shaved his head, he looked more humorous than
Yes.
like when Steve Austin shaved his head, he looked badass.
Yeah, Kurt Angle
shaved
looked
his head.
like
It was like, oh look, look at the funny guy with the
yeah.
shaved
Steve
head.
Austin had that genuine menace in his face.
No question. And so it took a while for people to catch on that this guy was as good as he was, or as great as he was. So I think Dolph's kind of that same way, and the
They don't
Miz
use him
is
enough.
just such a good bad guy. I mean, WWE, they've got so many. They got great guys, who are all kind of hitting their stride. Guys like Cody Rhodes is one of them, and there's there's about a dozen guys who are really, really good.
The Miz needs to stop being a bad guy.
They're not utilizing Dolph Ziggler properly at all.
Well, you know what? I don't know. There's just that one ingredient that you got to throw in, and what it usually is. I asked Jim Ross about it at WrestleMania at the red carpet fashion show. If you throw my name and Jim Ross at the fashion show together, it doesn't even make sense. And he thought pretty much the same thing I did. He needs that one, what we call a program, that's very personal, that people can remember for years. And I don't think he's had that yet.
Yeah, one of the greatest matches that I've seen in the recent memory, and I thought should have got a bigger deal out of it, was when Dolph Ziggler and Daniel Bryan had their match. I mean, it was just one of the just old school wrestling, just two just great guys, and it never really built up the attention that it should have. I thought anyway.
Well, it's got to have the you're right, but it goes back to having that build, the build up to the big match. Really focusing on both guys in a way that makes it, special. Like, I mean, I'm trying to bring up just say like the '69 Mets. That's, if you're a Long Island guy, everyone still remembers or has heard about the '69 Mets. If you go back and watch the games, I mean, I'm sure you see better games, every day somewhere in the major leagues. But it was that David versus Goliath story. The Mets were the young team. The Orioles were supposed to dominate, and they came out of nowhere to win the World Series. So the table was set for them to have this classic series. And I just don't think the table has been set yet for Dolph. Hey, how did we go from plugging my show?
Oh, you're right.
Sorry.
In Doylestown to talking about Dolph Ziggler, huh?
Well,
how'd that happen?
He is extremely sexy. I mean, if we're being honest.
I'm gonna bring something up. You said 47, but in TNA you're a young buck at 47, so you were fine there.
Hey, come on. You could say it. I can't. I can't say anything about it.
It really does kind of look like WCW. Back in the day.
I know, but
Okay.
I got to tell you, when you're the guy getting those checks, you don't fault their system at all. So.
Well, there you go. Who cares, right?
Are you kidding me? I would blow Jeff Jarrett on national television just to be behind the scenes in that company.
Real? Oh man, I've got Jeff on speed dial. He's been looking for a guy like you. National TV.
I will blow him and let him hit me in the head with a guitar when I'm done.
Okay, wait. Before we move past the wrestling thing, Mick, I gotta know who's your pick between Brock and John Cena. Who you think is gonna win that match?
Oh man, what's? I'll tell you this is a legit story. I was at my my son does some MMA, and there was a kid who was getting picked on by an older kid because he was a John Cena fan. He had a John Cena shirt on, and the kid was telling him John Cena sucks, and the kid took it very tough. And so I said to his mother, I said, "Hey, look, let me have a talk with him, okay?" And so the kid was like 9 years old, and I said, "Listen, out of all these people who are saying things about John Cena, there's only one guy who actually knows him here, and that's me. And I'm telling you, John Cena is one of the nicest guys you could ever meet." And he goes, but he said something about being a bad guy, like The Rock. Well, how about The Rock? And I said, well, The Rock is a very nice guy too. He goes, but The Rock's a bad guy. I said, look, it doesn't really make a difference. Like it's about being a good person, not a good or bad guy. Does that make sense? And he goes, like Brock Lesnar. I said, no, Brock's mean. Like, no, Brock's mean.
He's just a mean guy.
Regardless if he's a good guy or bad guy, he's a tough, mean guy. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to be John Cena and find out, like, in the first couple of minutes of that match that Brock really has a problem with him, because it certainly looked that way. I'm a UFC fan in the way, like, I'm a guy who will go out of his way to buy a pay-per-view if something looks really interesting. I won't just buy it because it's UFC. I'll buy like 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are that same way with WWE, but I think if I was one of those guys who are on the border and go, all right, I buy Royal Rumble, I buy WrestleMania, and I might get 1 or 2 others, that this is one I would get just to see what the hell happens during that match, because it could be a catastrophe, could be great. I don't know, but it'd be worth spending the $45 or so on to find out, I think.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that that you hear. You never know on the internet, because 90% of this stuff isn't true. But that he had somewhat of the reputation of like Goldberg had back in the day, where he was a little bit too rough, rougher than he should have been.
That was all those. That wasn't that all those power plant guys.
Yep.
Yeah, power plant guys. They were brought up a certain way, and only a few of them actually made it through and made it to the big time. But when they did, they were ready to like take stuff on their own, not just accept what was given them. You know what? I just realized I'm about like 20 minutes over my checkout time here.
Let's big plug again. Let's go ahead. Everything you want to plug, let's get it out.
All right, yeah. The event tonight is at a place called Puck. I believe it's One Printers Alley. It's in Doylestown, PA. If people want information, they can go to realmickfoley.com. But tickets will be available at the door. The best place to get them is at the door. There's 2 shows, 8 and 10 p.m. Levy's just wonderful at working the audience, so every show that Bob does is a different show. And in my case, I'm going to do 2 completely different sets, and the only time that I will do Mr. Miyagi anymore, which is a bit I've done, is when I do it with Louis Twitchell Santani.
Oh, he's the best.
Daniel LaRussa. So I'll probably hit that at the 8 p.m. show. But yeah, come on out. I don't think anyone walks away going, "Geez, that wasn't as good as I thought." People are always pleasantly surprised. And hey, I just saw this thing you said where you were doing the best interview you've ever done going on right now.
Yep, and we are absolutely going to use our entire Twitter machine of our fandom to make sure everyone goes out there and sells out those shows, because Like I said, if I was there, I would bring me and my closest 50 friends, as everyone should do.
Oh man, where are you guys based out of?
Well, we're spread across the country. I'm in Miami, Mersh is in Long Island, and Johnny is in Oakland.
All right, well, cool deal. Anyone who wants around the country, since you guys have a wide reach, the events are always up at realmickfoley.com. After tonight, Bob and I are doing 3 shows in Ohio, 1 in Kentucky, and then we've got some other things going on in PA and beyond in the upcoming months. So please check us out.
All right.
Oh, and I just got retweeted by one Mr. Mick Foley.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty big compliment. Best ever. You guys don't throw around the word ever like we do in wrestling. Like,
Yeah, we don't overuse the word epic either.
Hey, Mick, thank you, man. We're sorry that you're running late, but go knock 'em dead, as they say.
all right,
Thank you
hey,
so
appreciate
much.
you taking the time.
Have a great
guys.
show, Mick.
Not a problem, man.
All
Take it
right,
easy.
bye.
We appreciate it. And that was the great Mick.
Oh my God,
He was a
that
great
was Mick Foley.
dude. Just I'm gonna say it. I marked out. I was marked out. I was a total mark.
Can I be honest with you? I was actually itching during this interview.
1 second.
Like I was just itching.